We're going to be talking about 1.2 adding integers. Do you guys remember what an integer is? It's a positive or negative whole number. Excellent. So we'll be working with adding those together today. The first thing you'll see in your notes, it's asking us to use a number line to find the sum. Now, whenever you're finding a sum, that just means you're adding numbers together. So here we are going to always start at the 0, and this asks us right here to go ahead and find a 4, okay? Do I go right or left to get to a 4? I'm going to go over here to the right. All right, now I found 4, and then it told me to go to -4. Which direction is -4, to the left or the right? Left. Okay, to the left. Now, that doesn't mean to go to the number -4 right here. It means go to the left 4 spots. So I'm going to start from right here where I'm at and go back 1, 2, 3, 4. Where did I end up on the number line? 0. At 0. So let's go and put our answer directly underneath it and box it in, because we always work down underneath our problems. Next up, it says, find -1 plus -3. I'm always going to start at the 0. First number, where am I going? Going to the left to -1. Next number, now that I've done -1, I also have to go back -3. So I'm going to start right here and go backwards, 1, 2, 3. Where did I end up? -4. Therefore, -1 plus -3 equals -4. Let's do this last example. It says to find -2 plus 6. How many of you could look at -2 plus 6 and you know what the answer should be already? Okay, a lot of times people know how to do this without a number line. This is just another way that you can also find the answer. Let's start at 0. We're going to go to a -2. And then, am I going to go right or left 6 places? We're going to go right, because right is always going to be going in the positive direction. So I'm going to start from right here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What did I end up on? 4. So -2 plus 6 is 4. Using a number line is a way that you can find answers when you're adding and subtracting negative numbers. However, it kind of takes a long time, and I would rather teach you a more simple way, an easy way to figure out what those answers are. So we're going to do a little bit of that today during our lesson. Let me teach you a couple different vocab words that I want you to understand. So this right here says additive inverse. That sounds like a very complicated way to say something that actually means something very simple. All that means is it's the opposite of any number, okay? So everyone say inverse. Inverse. Opposite. Opposite. When you think of the word inverse, I always want you to think of the word opposite. So does anyone think you might know what the opposite of -5 is? Positive 5. Positive 5 is correct. Now, if you look right here, is this 7 a positive or a negative number? Positive. It's positive. Anytime you just see a regular number, there's an imaginary positive sign there, okay? So what's the opposite of positive 7? Negative 7. So inverse means what one word in particular? Opposite. Opposite. So additive inverse just means you are adding the opposite. Now next up, it talks about an additive inverse property. Once again, sounds complicated. A property in math kind of normally just means it's a shortcut. So let's imagine that I need to get back there to see Kaylee, okay? Would this be the best way for me to get there to see Kaylee, yes or no? No. No. Why is this not the best way for me to see her? It's the longest way. I just went around the entire classroom to get to her. There was a shortcut I could have taken right here through these desks. Don't you think it would have been better if I had taken the shortcut? Yes. Yep. I would agree. I could have gotten there really fast. Well, in math, there are ways that we can take shortcuts by using properties. So, repeat after me. Additive inverse property. Additive inverse property. Okay, so this is basically a shortcut we can use whenever we are using the opposites with numbers. This right here says the sum of a number. Now, sum just means that you are adding something together. Whenever you're adding a number and its opposite, it always equals 0. So if I am adding 10 plus -10, what's the answer? 0. Let's say that I had come up here and I was adding 7 plus -7. What does that equal? 0. Let's say I had added -5 and 5. The answer would be 0. Can anyone give me another example of a number and its opposite that would equal 0? Very good. 8 plus -8 equals 0. Perfect example. Let's move on. Today there are going to be some rules for adding integers. These rules will make it very simple to where we don't have to use a number line when we're adding and subtracting negative numbers. The first rule I want you to know is whenever it has the same signs, you're going to add the number and keep the sign. Whenever it has different signs, you're going to subtract the numbers and always take the sign of the larger number. Whenever you're learning something new, sometimes putting things to music can make it easier and it can help stick in your mind just a little bit better. And we're going to sing this together to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Here we go. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Take the sign of the larger number, then you'll be exact. Fantastic. Give yourselves a round of applause. You sounded lovely. Hopefully that can help you today. All right, this is something that's super important that I want you to know. It says every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Read that to me one more time because I really want you to get it. Go ahead. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. So let's say that I have 5 minus 2. What kind of a sign is in front of this one? A positive, because there's nothing there. What kind of a sign is in front of the 2? Positive. That's not a positive. What is that? That's a negative, okay? Now, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, wait a minute, that's a minus sign. A minus sign is a negative sign, okay? Because if you think about it, we know in our heads 5 minus 2 is 3, but think about our rules. Same sign, add the numbers, keep the sign. If I added those numbers, I would get 7, okay? Different signs, subtract and take. So just be careful. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Let's do some sample problems together. These are ones that will be similar to your homework tonight and also your quiz on Monday and your test next Wednesday. Let's look at the first one. -4 plus -2. Is this the same sign or a different sign? Same sign. Look, every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Same sign, what do I have to do? Okay, so 4 plus 2 is 6, and keep the sign, which is negative. So your answer is? -6. Excellent job. The next one goes to anybody who is wearing a skirt. Do I have the same sign or different sign? Same sign. Every number has a sign. That sign is directly in front of that number. So let's add and keep. What do you get, guys? -15 is correct. Next up goes to anybody who is wearing a sweater. 5 plus -10. Do I have same sign or different sign? Different. Notice this is a positive here and this is a negative. Sing me the song real quick and stop it when we get to different song. Same sign, add and keep, different sign. Okay, so we're going to subtract the numbers. Guys, what's 10 minus 5? 5, and then you have to take the sign of the larger number. Which one's larger, a 10 or a 5? 10. A 10. So do I keep the negative or no? Yes. Yes, so the answer is -5. Who thinks they would like to do D for me? Let me have Kaylee, go ahead. Okay, it is 4. Notice because she's got different signs, she subtracted the number, took the sign of the larger number, which was a +7. 4 is the correct answer. Very good job. Who would like to do the next one for me? 8 plus -4. Go ahead, Elena. Do I have same sign or different sign?
Different sign.
Different sign. This is a positive and this is a negative. So when we have a different sign, should we add or subtract?
Subtract.
Subtract. What's 8 minus 4?
7.
No, what's 8 minus 4?
Oh, I wasn't.
Good, it is 4, and then take the sign of the larger number. So should it be +4 or -4?
Positive.
+4. And that is the correct answer. Very good. I want you guys to go and do the last one on your own. And what did you guys get? -7. Good job. We had to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. Very good job. How many of you feel like you understand that part? Okay, let's flip our notes to the next page. I want to talk to you about another thing called a double negative. A double negative is whenever there are two negatives side by side and there's not a number in between them. That's called a double negative. Now, do you guys know what it means if there's a negative person? Do they say really happy things or kind of mean negative things? Mean and negative things from a negative person. Are those kind of people fun to be around? No. Can you imagine, are two of those kind of people fun to be around? Absolutely not, okay? So we want to get rid of them. So guess what we do whenever there are two negative signs side by side? Read this next part. If you have a double negative, they both become positive. We just don't want double negative. So notice right here, this is negative, negative. There's no number in between those double negatives, all right? So what are we going to do to that? We're going to actually turn those into a positive. Now, this sounds silly. 3 plus 1. That just means 3 plus 1. And guys, what's 3 plus 1? 4. So, technically, 3 minus negative 1 means positive 4. Just remember, when you see negative signs side by side with no number between them, we will always make them a positive. So let's go ahead and go down here to example A. 12 minus negative 9. Do you guys see a double negative? Do you see this negative sign and this negative sign? Yes. With no number between them? Guess what that's called, guys? A double negative. What do we always do to a double negative? Make it a positive. So we're going to go ahead and switch this to a positive, positive. Now instead of saying 12 plus 9, underneath it, let's just write, that means 12 plus 9. And what is 12 plus 9? 21. What do I do with my answer? Always make sure you're boxing those answers in. Okay, let's go to the next one. Negative 10 minus negative 5. Do you see a double negative?
Yes.
A double negative is two negatives side by side with no number between them. Who can come up to the board and show me where the double negative is? All right, Riley, come on up. Okay, so very good. We notice these two are the two negative signs that are side by side. This one is not side by side because the 10 comes in between it. So instead, we are only going to make this one a positive and this one a positive. Now we're going to drop everything down. So drop down the negative, bring down the 10, but instead of saying plus 5, what will I say?
10 plus.
Just plain old plus 5. Now, remember, every number has a sign. What's the saying? And that sign is directly in front of that number. So right here, this is a negative. This is a positive. Same sign or different sign? Different sign. Subtract and take. What do you get? 5. And take the sign of the larger number would be a negative. So your correct answer should be negative 5. Okay, go ahead and box that answer in. Any questions for me about the double negatives? All right, let's move on. This says evaluate the expression when A equals 2, B equals negative 4, and C equals negative 3. Now, evaluate is just meaning to solve. So we're trying to solve the problem. Now, as you can see down here, do you guys see that there are letters? Lots of times we don't like to have letters in math, so we're going to get rid of those letters by plugging some numbers in. Repeat after me. Plug it in, plug it in.
Plug it in, plug it in.
So instead of having a B, let's look at our instructions. What will I plug in instead?
4.
Which one, 4 or negative 4? Notice right there, it says B equals negative 4. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Always keep the sign with the number. So instead of writing a B, what am I going to write? Negative 4. Okay, so basically what I have done here is I am just dropping this down. Next, I'm going to drop down this minus sign that came straight from the original problem. And then instead of writing a C, what am I going to plug in? Negative 3. Now, a lot of times we don't want to have these two signs like right next to each other. So that's why a lot of times you will see people put in parentheses. That just means instead of having negative 4, we just have little parentheses there, okay? Now, do you guys see anything we just talked about? What do you see?
Double negative.
A double negative. Okay, yeah, we don't want to put negative 4. Your teacher messed up. Instead, we would want to put what? Negative 3. Sorry about that, guys. Not trying to confuse you. All right, so yeah, we want to plug in the right number. So we see there a double negative. What do I do to double negatives? Make it a positive. Okay, so this is going to be a positive. Should I touch this negative sign? No, why not? Because there was a number in between the negative signs. Okay? So now we're going to drop everything down. What's the first thing I should drop down? -4. And instead of saying plus 3, I'm just going to say plus 3. What's -4 plus 3? -1. We have different signs, so we have to subtract and take. All right, so as we're plugging this in, it says -c minus a. If it helps you, you can automatically just bring down the negatives or the minuses, okay? Then what I'm going to do here is I've got to simply plug in what c and a are right here, okay? What is c? -3. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down my -3. Once again, I like to just go ahead and put parentheses because we had two signs side by side right there. Then what is a? 2. So I'm going to bring down my 2. Do you see a double negative?
Yes.
What do I do to double negatives? Make them a positive. Instead of saying I have plus 3 minus 2, what can I do with that plus 3? It just means what? It just means 3, because with regular positive numbers, we can get rid of those positive signs in front of them. What else do I still need to drop down from that problem?
2.
Not just the 2, but -2. Okay, always bring your signs down with you too. What is 3 minus 2? 1 is correct. All right? Questions on problem B? On to problem C. Last night in your homework, you had these lines that are straight up and down like this. What do those lines mean? Absolute value. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just bring those absolute values down. And now instead of saying A plus B, what is A? 2. Bring down your plus sign. And what is B? -4. Now, what can I put around the -4 because there's two signs right next to each other? All right, so I'm just going to put some parentheses around it for myself, okay? Now, I cannot get rid of the absolute value yet because there is work to be done inside of those brackets. So we're going to go ahead and try to do this work first, and I just dropped down the absolute value symbol. What is 2 plus -4? Let's think about it. Same sign or different sign? Different sign. Do I add or subtract? Subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So what is 2 plus -4? -2. Am I done? No. Anytime you have these absolute value signs here, you've got to actually work it out. What's the absolute value of -2?
2.
Just plain old 2 is correct, and box that answer in. Okay, so next and finally here we have A over B. Does A over B mean to add, subtract, multiply, or divide it? Divide. Anytime that you have a fraction, it means you need to divide it. That means A divided by B. So first thing we're going to do, everyone say plug it in, plug it in.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Instead of having an A, Aubrey, what will I put? A 2. And Olivia, instead of having a B, what will I put? -4 is correct. Guys, can that be simplified at all?
Yes.
It can. Instead of saying -2/4, what would that be simplified to? -1/2. From now until your last day of math, when you are completely finished in college, you always have to simplify your answers, okay? So every single problem that you give to me, I'm always going to look for it in simplest form or in reduced form. So your correct answer is -1/2. Now here's just a little tip. Anytime you have a negative number, you can pull it out and say the fraction is -2/4. Or you can say 2 over -4. It means the same thing. All right, so here's some things to think about. First up, -8 plus 20. Same sign or different sign?
Different sign.
Different sign. So what do I do? Subtract. What's 20 minus 8? 20 minus 8? 12. All right. Is it a positive or -12?
Positive.
It should be +12. All right. Next up, 30 plus -30. What's the answer? 0. Why is it 0?
Because 30 minus 30 is 0.
A number and its opposite always equals 0. Next up, is 3 plus -4 the same as -4 plus 3? I want you to think about that. Is 3 plus negative 4 the same as negative 4 plus 3? Raise your hand if you would say yes. Raise your hand if you would say no. We had a lot of non-voters looking for other people to vote. How many of you would say you have no idea? All right, let me ask you this. What is 2 plus 5?
7.
What is 5 plus 2?
7.
Am I allowed to switch the order when I'm adding and it doesn't matter?
Yes.
That's exactly what's happened here. All you did was switch the order. So the correct answer here would be, yes, it's the same. There's a property that it's, a shortcut, called the commutative property. And it tells us that we are allowed to, at any time if we want to, switch the numbers when we are adding. So because of the commutative property, you are allowed to do that. All right, I want you to read the last two on your own and write down whether you think they are true or false. The sum of two negative integers is always negative. Raise your hand if you think it's true. The correct answer is true for that one. The sum of an integer and its absolute value is always 0. True or false?
False. True.
Incorrect. This should have said, and its opposite. All right? Tonight's homework is just 10 problems. So look at it carefully tonight and then bring it back. We'll talk about it and answer any questions you have tomorrow. Good job today, guys.